Tonight, I want to do something different with you. Tonight, we are going to have a bedtime story time. And for this bedtime story time, we are going to be talking about growing up in the 1960s and 70s and what Christmas in Barbados was all about. And, growing up in that era, not knowing all the troubles of the world and everything, it was just great to be a child then. So, tonight, I should say, we are going to have a story time. So for all of you that are interested and would love to listen to this story and see what Christmas was all about growing up in Barbados, then keep watching, because you're going to be thrilled at the different traditions and everything that the older generation had. I grew up more in the town area, so I am not sure exactly how the country was, but for me, I felt as though I was growing up in the country, because my grandmother, she had chickens, she had ducks, she had turkeys, she had goats, she had sheep. At one point, I think when I was really little, she had pigs, but then she subsequently got rid of the pigs. But you know what? Before we go any further, if this is a bedtime story time, it was only natural that I would be in my pajamas. So if I look a little different today, it's because I'm in my pajamas. Yes, I have my head tied, because if you see my hair underneath here, then you will know why I have my hair tied. And I put on some lipstick because we are having a story time. So let's get on with the story. So growing up in town, my grand, she had a big garden. And this garden, she grew our food, and we ate what we call at that time the yard fowls, because they were what you would call now free range. And whenever she needed to get something, she would kill a chicken or kill a duck or something. But one thing I remember growing up is that everybody had something raising. So even though my grand didn't kill her sheep or goats or whatever, somebody else would be killing something. So we would always get. And that's one thing about Barbados. I don't know what it's like now, but Christmas for us was never the commercialized thing that it is now. It was more of family and friends and sharing and getting together with friends. And because I remember as a little girl, they were on Christmas Day or Christmas bank holiday, I should say, we would go and we would visit people that we had not visited for a long time. My mom would take us, in the car to visit these people. When she had all these things, we never lacked for meat, we never lacked for certain things, because whatever she needed to cook, sometimes she would just go in the store to buy the things, obviously, that she didn't grow. So that was the way I raised. But let's get on to the Christmas season now. for the Christmas season growing up in the 1960s and 70s. They started from, I remember us starting from like weeks before they would start, because what they would do is all the houses, we would order some marl, and I remember my grandmother and her friends and everything spreading down this marl in the yard. I don't know what that was all about though, because I was too young and I never asked when I grew up. So, but I can vaguely remember, but then after that she just paved the yard, so she never had to do that very much. But another thing that they did from very early, you would see everybody outside with the hoses, and they would be washing down the houses, with a broom. They would get a broom and be scrubbing the homes and washing them down with some soap or water and everything. And I guess now to think of it, at that time, the reason why they did that was because they used to have to paint the house. So if there was too much dust on the actual wood, it would not, the paint would look too blotchy and it would say. So that's why they washed down the home. And then after that, and the house dried and everything, everybody would go and they would order their paints and all of that. And you would see in our neighborhood, you walk through the neighborhood, because a lot of cars didn't pass through that neighborhood, so it had lots of children that we used to play and run around and all those things. So I remember walking through the neighborhood and you could see everybody, or 95% of the people, painting over their homes and all those things. The thing that, and another thing the older generation did too, was they pulled down the whole house. The house was like in an uproar. Used to have everything pulled down. They took down the curtains, they took off the cushions, they just took off everything. And you had to be probably saying, "Excuse me," to the furniture to pass, because it was just so much. And one of the things that I think probably I was too lazy, one of the things that I didn't like that my gran used to make us do every year, and that was to varnish the furniture, because a lot of those older generation had more of the mahogany furniture and all that. So my gran had some lovely chairs that they probably still in her house right now, but lovely mahogany chairs that you wouldn't see now, and that would be probably worth quite a bit. And we had to varnish those chairs, and everything, as I said, was taken away from the house, like from the sides of the house. So then the next thing we had to do is to paint the inside of the house. So I remember painting 10 years old, 9 years old, 11 years old, all those things, and I'm painting my grand's house. Obviously, I never used to really paint outside. There was only when I started to get a little taller, then I would paint like maybe the bottom. But then they got ladders, and a lot of the men from the neighborhood would come and help paint, and it was just so much. And guess what? I forgot to tell you all that we are having tea tonight. So it's not only a bedtime story time, but it is also a tea time. So just let me get a sip of my tea. It was cooling, and it is perfect now. So I hope that y'all want to have a cup of tea with me. That is perfect. So after all the painting was done, we used to have to let the house dry, all those things. But in the meantime, the older generation, they used to be preparing, all the ingredients for the cake. And before we got the type of hams that we have now, we used to have something that they used to call salt hams. And these salt hams were so salty. It was a completely different kind of ham. So this ham would last for a whole year sometimes, before you actually cook it, because things. So they used to have these hams, and I'm going back now in the 1960s, and they used to have these hams that they used to hang from the roof of the house. So these hams used to be hanging, and then around Christmas, or not Christmas, but close to Christmas, what they would do is, like, days before, they take down the ham and they soak it. And I'm remembering these things from a child now, And they soak it, and they soak it for days before. And I remember my gran going outside and, she had like a cast iron big pot, ceramic, something. And they would go outside, because they had the blocks and all that. And they would go outside and make something like a fire. Not something like a fire. They would make a fire. And that is where she used to boil that ham. That ham never used to be boiled inside on the gas stove, because it would just take too much gas. So they used to boil it on the outside. And when I was little and they started killing the animals, I would go outside sometimes and I would watch them killing the animals, like a sheep or a goat or whatever. And they would kill, when they kill this animal, they would hang it from something. I don't know what they used to, I can't remember. But they used to hang it from something, because my gran, she had this pipe on the outside that had a cement base. So all those things used to do on the outside close to there. So they would hang the animals, and the goat or the sheep or whatever, and let the blood run out. And if this is getting too gross for anybody, you don't have to stay, but just stay and just listen to the bedtime story. And the blood would run out, and when all of the blood was finished running out of the animal, then they would put it in the hot water or something like that to skin this animal. And I remember, a little girl, obviously you can't help do that, but I used to watch them just pull the skin off of the sheep or the goat or whatever it was, and then everything was just beautiful on there. But that fresh meat, I didn't know it at the time, but that fresh meat was the sweetest meat that you could have, because to me that was a norm for me. So when something is normal, you take it for granted, but that was a norm. So I hope that y'all are enjoying this story and y'all are enjoying what Barbados was like during the Christmas season. If you are, just give me a thumbs up. Just let me know that you're enjoying this bedtime story. And after doing all of that, they would have these big butcher knives, what they call now. It wouldn't be like a butcher knife. It would be like a sword, what we would call a sword now, because they were like big. And my gran had a stone on the outside that you would see these men sharpening these knives. They would go this side and this side and this side and this side, and they would be sharpening these knives. I mean, looking back at it now, it seems so cool at the time. And the knives were like super sharp, and I know that those swords were sharp enough to cut off anybody's head if they had to. So then they would start to cut up the meat, and that's when we would parcel it out. And a lot of the time, there were people that wanted to buy the meat, just like my gran did. She bought meat from other people as well. If they were killing a pig and she was killing a sheep or goat, they would sell the pig. The lady would sell, whoever would sell the pig, and she would sell some of her goat. So a lot of the times, I remember though, my gran giving away stuff. She used to give away a lot of stuff, and I love the way how I grew up and the traditions of our life in Barbados, because I realize in traveling that there are a lot of people that don't have traditions, because there's so much of a melting pot of people in the place. So there's no like one tradition, but I'm sure the Indians got their traditions, the Asians have their traditions, and I love that. I love when people stick to a lot of their traditions, and I find a lot of other cultures, they stick to it. All right, so let's continue with this bedtime story. And after the killing of the meat and all that there, and the pulling down of the house and the painting of the house and all those things, let's get on to maybe closer to Christmas. All right, closer to Christmas, and everybody's meat was stocked in the fridge and all that. My gran, then, she would have had on her ham by now, boiling, And as I told you, it took long to boil. A lot of local Christmas music. And then they used to have things in the bridge town, in the center of town. They would put up a big stage, and they would have a lot of local artists just coming in and singing, and it was a lot going on around Barbados for the Christmas season. I remember when I was very, very little, they used to, and you probably wondering how she remember this. Actually, I was wondering the same thing, because it's amazing. Our brain is something else when we want to remember stuff. So I remember like people coming around and singing carols and singing songs. And then not only people, but sometimes they had people that was driving like vehicles with speakers on the outside, and they would drive through the neighborhood with their lights, with the lights on the vehicles, and they would be playing different songs, different carols and stuff like that. And it was fun. It was really fun as a child. It was really, really fun. So my grand, she used to have her fruits prepared from for about 11 months now. 11 months now. She had her fruits prepared. And for me as well, my fruits were prepared from last year, because I wanted to do a light fruit cake last year and I never did it. So my fruits are still there, soaking in the wine and the rum and all that. So this year on this channel, I'll be doing a light fruit cake for you for sure. But yeah, and when she made her fruit cake, that was a fruit cake, and that was full of the rum and everything else, because anyway, let me not get ahead of myself. So Christmas was always a time where a lot of people that didn't go to church for the whole year, they used to go to church Christmas morning. So the service started around 5. And so we used to have to get up like around 3 and go to the Christmas service. And that Christmas service was like a beautiful service, because that's when they have different performances, and the children were doing different skits and stuff like that. But Christmas Eve now, because let's get on to Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve was when everybody was super busy, and because Christmas Eve was the time where they would be baking their cakes, they would be baking their ham, they would be cooking some of the food, preparing some of the food for the next day, Christmas Day, because Christmas Day we had like a super large spread. Like the table, it had the sweet potato pie, had macaroni pie, it had baked pork, it had baked chicken, it had turkey, it had ham, it had peas and rice, it had the gravy, like whatever chicken gravy or whatever gravy. It had the salads, which might be potato salad, tossed salad, coleslaw. I mean, and the list goes on. But I'm going to share this, listen. They had this is a famous, I don't know what to call it, a famous dish in Barbados that we call jug. And I guess it tasted nice, but I never wanted to taste it. I never wanted to taste, because as my mom always say, people eat with their eyes. And I sure ate with my eyes when it came to that jug. What you could do is look up jug, and you would see. And to me, as a little girl, and growing up, going into teenager, growing up, to me, I guess it tasted nice because it had the salt beef and it had the salt meat and beef and I don't even know. And then it was made with peas and all that. But to me, it looked like stew. It looked like poop. So I just never really wanted to taste it. But that too was on the Christmas table. And Christmas Eve was also the time when they would start rebuilding the house, because all the little ones went to sleep, including me. All the little ones went to sleep, and all we knew that early in the morning when we woke up, we saw a brand new house. And when I tell you a brand new house, this house, I mean, was in an uproar just the night before. And then when we got up, all the curtains was up. Sometimes friends used to come over and help. Sometimes my gran did it by herself. My mom helped because we lived there. So it was my mom and my gran and whoever else they get to come and help, because that was one thing about the Christmas season. All the neighbors and everything. Neighbors in Barbados were really like neighbors. So they would come over and help one another, especially if they weren't doing too much. So when I got up the next morning for church, a lot of the times my gran used to send us to church though. When I was little, she would send us to church, but she never really used to go because she had so much doing in the morning. But she would put on our little church outfits, because you dress up in your Sunday best. And the church outfits used to be those little cute little fluffy dresses that you see all the little children wearing. And you're so fussy to be going to church and showing off your new outfit, because it was always a new outfit. So you were so fussy to be doing that. And then that is like the Christmas Eve and the Christmas morning. By that time, all the cakes were finished baking. But before we get on to that, it was the aroma. The aroma you would smell in the neighborhood was like nothing beats it, because all the houses were baking their cakes. The lights, the windows, the windows was open because everybody is showing off their lights and their decorations and their Christmas trees and all those things. And I don't, I don't celebrate it now, but I am just sharing my experiences as a child that I wouldn't really trade. I wouldn't trade that for the world. So, but you take a walk through the neighborhood, and it was easy to walk through the neighborhood because we didn't have to worry about cars or anything. So you take a walk through the neighborhood, and when you smell all from the middle class people to the people that were not so well off, everybody was doing the little things. I remember there were some of us that couldn't afford decorations, and the ones that couldn't afford decorations, we used to take the eggshells and paint the eggshells and make decorations with them and stuff like that. And it's not all the commercial things that they're selling now that is important around the Christmas holidays. It is the love that we spread, the love that we share, all those things. And I know that there are a lot of people that are saying a lot of things now about the Christmas season, and I really do understand that. But what is important to me, because I miss my family. I live in the USA now, and I miss my family. My family is spread all over the place, and that is something that I wish I could get back, because my mom, she died for me at a very young age. My grand died, my children and my grandchildren now, and what I am basically the matriarch of my family. And what I would love is for my children, and that's what I shared with a lot of my first three children mostly. That's what I shared with them, a lot of joys of the Christmas season, because there were a lot of times we couldn't buy stuff, but we made things for each other and things like that. So I am sharing this bedtime story time with you because I think that it needs to be shared. And I know that there might have some people out there that might try to share some aspects of them, but I'm sharing from my experience and my aspects and what I remember and how I felt as a child. And I felt safe, and that safety is beautiful. So let's continue to get on with our story. And after we left church on Christmas morning, a lot of people used to head straight to Queen's Park. And Queen's Park was a normal tradition on Christmas morning. And people just used to walk around showing off their new outfits, and they had photographers there that used to take pictures. And a lot of the times there were certain people, pictures and outfits that were in the newspapers, what we would call the Nation newspaper and the Advocate newspaper then. And another big thing that they had in Queen's Park was the police band. They used to have the police band playing in Queen's Park, and they had stalls set up where people were selling things, and it was just a big thing to be in Queen's Park on mornings after you left church. Some people just used to go to Queen's Park. They didn't even used to go to church, but it just used to go straight to Queen's Park. And we would listen to the police band playing all of the great Christmas songs and Christmas local songs and day songs as well. And it was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful experiences, and I really wanted to share this with the world, and that's why I am up at this time to be able to share it, because I want people to know what Barbados was like in the 1960s and 70s, and I guess a lot of people still keep some of the traditions, but we too have gotten very commercialized, and a lot of those old traditions are just going away. And this video is going to be a reminder to a lot of people in Barbados and beyond of the traditions that are lost. And they're lost because a lot of the older generation has died out. So because the older generation has died out, those experiences and those traditions have died with them. And that's why it was dropped in my spirit about a week ago to do this video for 2023 Christmas season, because our 2024 year is going to be a great year. It's going to be such a great year for us as a people, and all of our blessings that we have been praying for will start to materialize. I know right now you might be saying that you are in a situation that you don't know how you're going to get out. But you will get out. You will get out of the situation. And I just want to close this video, because I'm not even sure how long I went on for, but I just want to close this video by saying, let's try to keep at least some of the traditions alive, which is like spreading our light, spreading the love, and stop hating each other so much. Because when you spew out hate, you will get back hate. So let's stop hating each other and spread some joy, spread some love. I know there are a lot of people out there that will want to think, but our love in the atmosphere, that is the energy of love that could combat any hate that might be out there. So let's stop it. Let's look at our Christmas Day now. Because yes, I gave y'all a big lecture just now. I didn't mean to go off on that lecture. But let's look at Christmas Day. Because yes, I told you about us being in Queen's Park and all that. But just remember that we haven't eaten yet. So when we get home, the table is set. The table, there's certain things that might not be on the table, like the salads and stuff like that, but the table where the foods are set. When I got older and my children were growing up and stuff like that, and my grand was still alive, but my mom was gone, we used to, me and my sisters and whatever grandchildren that were there at the time, we used to go to a house. It was mostly my youngest sister's house because she loves entertaining. She loves having things like that. So it was mostly her house. So we would all like make different dishes. There were some dishes that I did nicer, so they used to ask me to bring those. So like I was the eldest, so my sister after me, she would bring her dishes, whatever dishes. My youngest sister, a lot of the time, she made a lot of dishes, a lot of different dishes she made. So I am going to share, as the time go on, I'm going to share some of those different dishes with you, except Jug. But the way my Christmas was like growing up, and that's why I share it with my children. And now my children, the eldest ones, my youngest, she doesn't like Christmas too much, but the eldest ones, they have gone on with their children, and they love the Christmas season, and they love the Christmas traditions, and they go on. And a lot of traditions they have started on their own. And I love that. I love that. And I just hope that I could be a part of their life for as long as possible, so that I could continue to instill in my children and my grandchildren the different traditions or the different things that I remember over the years. So and as I said, Christmas Day, let's go back to the 1960s and 70s now. The food was on the table. People would come visiting. People from the neighborhood would come visiting. And whenever they came, it was always a drink. One thing I remember my grandmother, you would see so much alcohol coming out on Christmas Day. She hid it in her room, in her wardrobe. And that's where she hid it, I know. So you would see the alcohol coming out, but everybody everybody would get a drink, whatever drink they wanted. Because, oh, another thing I forgot to tell y'all was that the only time we saw soft drinks and all these soft drinks that you could get now, the only time we saw those things was at Christmas time. My grandmother used to buy a couple of cases of malt, a couple of cases of beer, some mixed drink. Don't forget the Bajan sorrel. That was our Christmas drink. So if you didn't want anything strong to drink, you could get a glass of sorrel, and she would give you a slice of her black cake, because what we would call great cake or Christmas cake, it has so much different names. I used to sell that as well on the Christmas season. I used to bake that for some people that wanted to buy it, and I would sell it as well. But because I don't really eat it so much now, I wouldn't bake it in this house. It's just me and my daughter right now, my youngest daughter. And so you will get that. You will get a slice of that really salty ham. So you would need, it wasn't that salty then when she finished boiling hours. But you will get a slice of that, and you will get a piece of cake. So, and then we had our Bajan salt breads too. So, but the sweet from the cake, whatever kind of cake you chose, would always drown out the salt from the salty ham. Those were, as the older generation used to say, those were the good old days. And those good old days are days that we will never get back. And then after everybody ate and everything, after being up all night fixing the house and preparing the food, preparing the cakes, preparing all those things, everybody used to be tired. So guess what? Everybody went to sleep. So we had our nap after we ate our belly full. We had our nap and stuff like that, and then we would get up and we would go again. We would do stuff and things like that. Then last point is that my mom, on the Christmas bank holiday, then there were a lot of people that we would not have seen all year round that live in the countryside, what we call the countryside. That's what we did. That's what we did for our Christmas. So if you have any questions for me, you can just send it questions. If you have any comments, you can send the comments as well. I really would love to read. I really would love to read your comments, because I really enjoyed bringing this segment to you, because it brought back so much memories to my mind. And there's nothing wrong in reminiscing. There's nothing wrong in remembering the good old days or the good times. There's nothing wrong in that, because we have so much going on in this world right now. We want to remember those times. We want to just enjoy thinking about those times. So I hope once again that you enjoyed this bedtime story time of Christmas in Barbados and our traditions and all of those things. And if you did, you know what to do. My name is Annie, and this is Sweet Annie's Life. And it will be a pleasure if you would just subscribe to this channel, because you will get so much exciting different things. So if there's a recipe that you want to see, just let me know and I'll do it for you. If you enjoyed this talk, thank you so much for staying to the end, because our attention span is so short these days. Nobody likes these long talks, but I wanted to tell y'all a story, so that's why I came on to tell you this story. So have an awesome morning and have a great day, and until I see you again, continue to let your light shine and spread your love wherever you go.